So, welcome listeners to this special edition of the Whiteout podcast. I'm joined as usual by my trusty co-host, Rob Stewart. Rob, how are you?
Yeah, hi, Dom. Good, thanks. Yeah, good. I think as far as skiing is concerned, though, we can officially say the winter is now over. But wow, didn't we have an incredible end to the season? You know, epic snowfalls in some of the best resorts around Europe.
Amazing,
People have had some great ski conditions in places like Teen and Hintertux and Val Thorens, all those places that you expect at the end of the season. But they've had powder snow, and after such a shaky start to the season, which let's face it, it was. What a brilliant end to the winter. So I think that's a good sign, right?
It was incredible and really gets you razzed up ready for next season, doesn't it? It's just seeing some of those pictures coming out so late in the season and thinking it's sacrilege to be closing when there was such fantastic conditions. But, this is what happens. It tantalizes us and tempts us, doesn't it, into next season again?
It does. I think ski resorts do need to look at that and expect this to happen sometimes and be ready for it. But it's difficult.
Yeah, it is tough. And what's the summer got in store for you, Rob? Because I know that one thing you and I are very familiar with is how fabulous these resorts are during the summertime with their biking and hiking and climbing and camping and all the other fab activities. I'm sure you've got some cool stuff in store this summer, haven't you?
Oh yeah, used to say look forward to winter in the autumn. Now I say I'm looking forward to summer in the spring, which is brilliant, isn't it? Summer in the mountains. So yeah, I'm off to Interlaken and Grindelwald in the Jungfrau region at the beginning of June, and I'm going to do some hiking in that area, and then off to Leger in the middle of June. Going to do some downhill mountain biking and some road cycling, and then at the end of June off to Cromwell to do some e-biking.
So, tough life, Rob. It's a tough life.
So I'm looking forward to all of that. What just so great, isn't it, to get out to the mountains during the summer?
Yeah, I didn't really find myself in the summer mountains until I should think it was 10 years ago, and I suddenly realised what fabulous destinations they were for the summer, and I had the kids climbing up this fabulous climbing wall, and outdoor, but in quite a controlled environment. Actually, I do look back and think it was quite terrifying that one of them was about 4 or 5 years old climbing up this rock face. But yeah, I mean, they are just fabulous destinations, and looking over those.
So we've spent a few family summers in the mountains over the last 4 or 5 years, and we've loved it. It's relaxed. It's very, very different, isn't it, to the winter and to the ski side of things. But there's loads to do. And whether you want to relax or whether you want to sort of pump it up and get on the bikes and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. I've been doing summer mountain for a long time. I suppose I had a big gap, but back in the day when I was over 30 years ago, I did my first summer in Chamonix. But at that time, if you wanted to go to the mountains in summer, you didn't really have a lot of choice. Chamonix was one of those places where you could go and you could do summer stuff and you could go rock climbing and mountaineering and all of that. But any other ski resort was just a ghost town back then. So you wouldn't even think about going. Even places like Morzine, there's no way you would think about going there 30 years ago and do something there in the summer because there was just nothing to do there at all.
And now it's pretty much bigger business.
How much has that changed?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty much bigger business the summer than winter in some of those places, isn't it?
Chamonix traditionally has always been busier in the summer than the winter anyway. Interlaken's another one of those places that's obviously a busy summer destination. Morzine's just growing and growing, hasn't it? And those 2 months through that July and August time now, Morzine, Leger, obviously, and some of the other obvious destinations across the Alps, Dolomites, even places like Charities, they're just busy now in the summer. And it's great to see that. I think there's a lot of debate, isn't there? There's a lot of debate about the shoulder season. I know the Switzerland tourism is pushing autumn big time this year. They've got a big campaign to say, why don't you go to Switzerland in the autumn? Because actually it's a completely different take on things. Over in the mountains then. So yeah.
Well, maybe we'll do a separate edition of the podcast on complete summer activities once we're into the peak of the summer. I'm sure we'll be doing that. So, but the real reason we're here today for this special edition of the Whiteout podcast is because you and I are mutual pals with one crazy man called Dan Keeley. of Snowcamp, and he is undertaking this epic adventure to run from London to Rome, or Home to Rome as it's branded, running 35 miles every day for 35 days. And today on the White Out podcast is the reason we put this special edition together. Sorry, I'll say that again. The reason we put this special edition together is because Dan is raising money during this leg of his run for Snowcamp Charity, an epic charity. And we've managed to catch up live with Dan today as he is just entering into the Aosta Valley, having left London a couple of weeks ago, running day in, day out to get himself to the Colosseum in Rome within 35 days. And we had a chat with Dan today. But before we go over to that, Rob, tell us a little bit about Snowcamp, the charity, which this leg is designated.
Okay. So Snowcamp is a youth charity. It's focused on turning around the lives of young inner city kids, basically, through the power of snow sports. And in effect, that means taking kids that may not have ever been taking, well, they're kids that are not taking the perfect path in life, let's say, and putting them on the road to skiing. And they start by learning to ski in the indoor snow domes or maybe on the artificial ski slopes around the UK. And eventually they can then end up going skiing in the actual mountain environment, going out to the mountains. And some even go on to become fully qualified ski instructors as well. So there's a real pathway to that through the Snowcamp charity. It's amazing. It's the biggest winter sports charity in the UK. And Dan is dedicating his Alps leg of his magnificent adventure to Snowcamp. And we know the charity, and it is a fantastic charity. And Dan is an absolute inspirational character as well.
He is. So he started with a target of £2,000 for the Snowcamp charity. He is running the rest of the run for Calm, a campaign against living miserably charity. That's the sort of main charity behind this, but the Alps leg, as we say, is dedicated to Snowcamp. So he's smashed that £2,000 target for Snowcamp now. Now he's looking to try and double that. Typical of Dan. He's not satisfied with just hitting his target. So anyone listening today that feels inspired by this today, do head over to his website or social channels. They are hometorome.run, or I am Dan Keeley. You can find him on all the social channels doing this incredible run. It leaves you speechless.
It's amazing. And having listened to this interview as well, it really did bring it home to me what Dan is doing every single day for 35 days.
It's quite something, isn't it? Yeah, let's have a listen. So, welcome to Dan Keeley. I feel very lucky to be able to talk to you live, Dan, in the Alps, undertaking this incredible mission. Before we start, what exactly can you see where you are right now, Dan?
I can see the Alps, Tom. I can see the Snowcamp peaks of the Alps ahead of me. I'm at 5 miles from Martigny. Over my shoulder was Lake Geneva this morning. I've got Canal to my left. The Snowcamp peaks of the Alps exactly in front of me. It is a beautiful, beautiful sight. And considering the rain through southern France, it is awesome to have these dry conditions along these canals, heading towards Martigny, ready for the up and over tomorrow.
You've definitely been through it, haven't you? And for our listeners out there, can you tell us a little bit about the two charities you're running for, Dan? Because I've given a bit of a lead in, but if you can give us a little bit about the two charities, and mainly Snowcamp, which obviously this leg is designated to.
100%. So the predominant charity that I'm out here for is the campaign against living miserably, or CALM. They're united against suicide prevention in the UK. It is the unfortunate stats that 16 people will have taken their lives today, as will they tomorrow and the day after and the day after, and so on. So, their cause and their mission resonates with me for various reasons, but the next 3 days are absolutely dedicated to Snowcamp. The coolest charity, obviously, in the UK. I've been part of that team for over 10 years now. It's the 20th anniversary of Snowcamp. We're on a mission to raise £2 grand over the next 3 days as I take on the Alps. And rumour has it, we smashed it today. So I'm actually raising it to £4 grand by the end of this week. But Snowcamp, obviously, are all about breaking down barriers and broadening horizons for young people that would never be able to see the sight that is, in front of me here, Don. I just feel very lucky to be out here.
Absolutely.
And if we at Snowcamp can, open barriers, break down barriers, and create these opportunities for more underserved young people who need these opportunities, then these dodgy knees and everything at the moment will have all been worth it.
Oh, that's fantastic, Dan. It's incredible. So whilst listeners might be thinking this guy is absolutely nuts, I'm right that about 5 years ago, you did this journey the opposite way round, didn't you?
I did. I ran from the Colosseum to the London Eye with just me and my backpack back in 2017. It's 65 days, averaging 20 miles a day at the time. And, things have changed a little bit now. It's over 5 years on. I've got a family who are here with me this time.
Yeah.
And so I've got the support. I'm not carrying as much gear, which means, I could have taken on higher mileage, which is exactly what I've been doing over the past 17 days.
Fantastic. So what was the motivation originally, Dan, when you very first sat there one night when you're watching EastEnders and you're thinking, you know what, I'm going to run to Rome?
Well, I wasn't watching EastEnders. I was opposite the London Eye, actually. The fireworks celebrations, I think it's 2015 going into 2016. And at the time, I was in year 5 of a recovery journey with my own mental health, Dom. So, in 2012, I actually had a full-scale psychotic episode on holiday in Italy. I just, overworking, pushing my mind to the limit, and I just couldn't keep up. So I had by definition, I lost my sanity, ended up in psychiatric wards and faced a pretty dark chapter. And, if it wasn't for the support of, my family, my friends, my counsellors, the NHS, I wouldn't be speaking to you now. And it took 3 years to get my medication right. It took 3 years to be in a stable place to go back to work full time. And obviously I was part of the Snowcamp team who stood by me through all of this. And then, that 5-year journey of recovery needed to be celebrated. It needed to be bookended one way or the other. And, I was living very intentionally at that time, prioritising my well-being over everything else. And I couldn't think of a better way to, physically and emotionally and I guess, a little bit spiritually bring that whole journey of recovery full circle, excuse the pun, by thinking of the 2 most iconic circles I could. Yeah, and linking Italy. So the Colosseum to the London Eye was, and it was one of those moments, Dom, where, the moment I thought about it, it felt like a done deal. It was a no-brainer. I just had to go through the motions of doing my prep and getting out there and putting one foot in front of the other.
Absolutely incredible. And so now you're doing the journey in reverse. Obviously it's downhill, so it's much easier this time.
Oh, yeah, it's all downhill. That's right, yeah.
So this time you've already mentioned you've got the fantastic support of your wife, your 2 children in that fantastic looking branded motorhome. It looks absolutely epic. I've never stayed the night in a motorhome, but are you not just desperate to get into a hotel room?
Well, I would be lying if I didn't say that I made full use of my friend's Airbnb when he joined us for a few nights. And, even just having access to, a couple of radiators in a stationary position is actually something you come to appreciate. But, full credit to Georgie, my wife, who's, driving the van from campsite to campsite every day, 35 miles down the road, and, doing so with a 6-month-old and a 4-year-old.
I was going to say.
Yeah.
2 very young kids.
Exactly. So 2 very young children. But, it took 5 or 6 days to get into our flow zone, but we are loving life on the road, I've got to tell you.
Oh, sounds fantastic. So, Dan, talk me through this. Let's assume any normal person could do this for, let's say, a week, which I know is unlikely, but let's assume somebody can. Is your body not looking at you going, Dan, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I've been doing this for a fortnight. I'm not doing it. I can't do it. I can't do it today.
Ish. And I say that because this morning, for the first time on the whole adventure, don't judge me, but I did press the snooze button for 15 minutes because I did feel it. I did feel it this morning. I think, getting to Lake Geneva was a big checkpoint. It was a celebratory day, but I did, it was a 42-mile day yesterday. And this morning at 3 o'clock when my alarm went off, again, don't judge me. I did have to press the snooze button because, particularly my right knee was saying, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
But, it's day 17 now. And, I've got that, life experience, I guess, from Rome time before, where you've just got to be really kind to yourself the whole time. And a lot of people say that you're out here running a marathon every day. I'm not really. If you're running a marathon, you're generally heading out to get a PB. I don't generally push my body beyond 80, 90% at the most. It is about just enjoying the journey, being kind to yourself, celebrating the small wins, and just letting your body warm up in the morning. If you need to power hike for an hour, and then that's fine, and you just run when you can. So, it's just about, being very present in the moment, being in tune with your body. If you need to stop and drink, you have some water. If you need to stop and do what you need to do to keep going, then so be it. Fantastic. And, obviously the poles help as well, just to take the pressure off the legs where you can.
Yeah, okay. And some of the photos of those blisters that I've seen on your feet, they're the sort of blisters that would make the average person in the UK take a couple of days off work. How do you get over those and then start running another 30 to 40 miles the next day?
Yeah, do you know what? I've been thinking more about this because, certainly on day 4 and 5 of the adventure, it really hurt. The adrenaline war, I was out here by myself, having had a lot of support and company, for the first 5 days. And, there I was running through France and, the blisters, were kicking in and, my knees. What I've come to realise, you can acknowledge and respect every bit of pain that your body's telling you, but there's certain pain that you just appreciate and you say, actually, that's a non-issue, that's just part of what we're doing. And, to be honest, Tom, I've only got 2.5 weeks. I'm over halfway now.
Yeah.
So it does hurt. It does hurt. It's always, sort of 15, 20% of a stiffness or pain every day. But you kind of learn to live with it.
Yeah.
And, it's just part of the package. But there's certain pain that you do have to definitely pay more attention to than others. But if it's just general, aches and pains, then, you can deal with that. And it's just a case of, being kind to yourself where you can and running where you can and power hiking the rest.
Fantastic. It's incredible. And when you sit down with Georgie in the evening, does she ever dare turn around and say, "Oh, Dan, I'm absolutely knackered"?
I said, "Why? What have you been doing?"
Exactly.
Do you know what? I've been thinking, I don't know who's got it harder. Genuinely, she is in the company of Sophia and Max 24/7, more or less.
Yeah.
We have had moments of support. We've got some friends joining us tonight. I've even got David cycling alongside me now. So we've got, these friendly faces popping up every now and then. But, most of the time, Georgie is with Maxwell and Sophia. But it is lovely when we get the kids to bed and we have, the twilight hour together and, just kick back with a glass of wine and just keep telling ourselves, we are making the most of it. Georgie's still on maternity leave and Max starts school in September. If we can look back at Christmas and say, we did that, we stuck our necks out, we just went for it, we said yes and figured it out afterwards, then, hopefully we'll be proud of what we've achieved at the end of the year.
Absolutely. You should be very proud of where you're at now, let alone anything else. And so what sort of, in terms of stocking up on calories every day, what kind of calorie intake are you having to take in?
Calorie intake, I can't tell you. I'm not huge on data. The only real data I pay attention to is my average daily mileage, just to make sure that I can arrive at the Coliseum at 3 p.m. on the Friday the 2nd of June. Other than that, anybody's welcome to have a look at my Strava data in terms of how many calories I'm burning off. But in terms of strategy with getting it back in, it is literally a case of eating everything and anything that I come across on. And those golden arches have played their part on many occasions, and there's no shame involved in that.
Oh, it's definitely sounding like a challenge I could take on. That's the bit that I'd like.
It is basically an eating competition with a little bit of running in between.
Oh, fantastic. Dan, incredible to catch up with you. What have the next few days got in store? Don't say running, but what have the next few days got in store? Where will you be and when?
Yeah, well, the next few days are a real highlight of the adventure. We've got the Alps stage, and as I say, it's dedicated to Snowcamp. So tomorrow is actually my birthday treat, even though it's my birthday today. Tomorrow's a big one. We're hiking up the Great St Bernard Pass to stay at the hospice at the top, which has never closed its doors for hundreds of years. Napoleon stayed there with us then. The history is unbelievable. So we'll be heading up the Great St Bernard Pass and I think they'll start there for the final 200 metres. So I'm looking forward to the drama that tomorrow has in store. And then we'll be dropping down to Aosta on Wednesday. Got some friends in the Aosta Valley. Many people listening to this, no doubt, will know that valley very well.
Yep.
So dropping down to Aosta, and then we'll be powering on through the valley floor on Thursday towards Ivrea, and then we'll be popping out the Alps the other side. I think by the end of this week, we can certainly celebrate, this whole Alps stage of Snowcamp. But it is, 2,290 metres of elevation gain. That's not including the descent, of course. And it's 84 miles underfoot over the next 3 days. So It is a big one. And, in about an hour's time, Dom, I'll have a beer in my hands and fasting back and resting the legs ready for tomorrow.
Dan, it is absolutely incredible. I can't put into words what I'm thinking about what you're achieving now. You should be extremely proud of yourself and everything you're doing for these incredible charities. We're all absolutely rooting for you. If I could jump on a plane and get there right now, I would do.
Tunnels at Geneva Airport, you know that.
So, a quick reminder of how people can donate. What's the best way for people to donate?
Yeah, the simplest way is to go to the website for the whole adventure, which is hometorome.run. So not the number 2, TO in the middle. So hometorome.run.
Yeah.
And if you scroll down and look at the Snowcamp section, you'll see the link to donate. or if you just keep an eye on the Snowcamp social channels over the next 3 days in particular, you'll know what to do.
Final question, Dan, before you go. You're in the middle of the fabulous, or you're just about into the Aosta Valley, and probably one of the most exceptionally beautiful areas when it comes to skiing. Winter or summer?
Winter.
Really? Good on you. That's a true Snowcamp man talking.
You know me.
Good on you, Dan. It's an incredible mission. Very, very pleased to have been able to talk to you today. Anything else you want to add to our listeners today?
No, I don't think so. Just look after yourselves out there. Thank you so much for supporting Snowcamp this year. It's a massive, massive year for everybody involved. I feel very lucky to be out here representing the charity. So, join me on social over the next 3 days. I'll be giving it the beans. Yeah, just thank you very much for joining me for Home to Roam.
Great. Thanks, Dan. Thanks so much today. Good to talk.
Cheers, Dom.
Cheers.
Wow, Dom, that was great. It's just unreal, isn't it? To think of waking up at 5 a.m. every day and then start running 30 to 40 miles every single day for over a month. I mean, it's just imagine the pain barriers you must have to push through.
Oh,
I can't imagine that actually.
Just hearing Dan talk, and he's doing it while he's moving there. I mean, the bloke won't sit down to do an interview. He's on the move, and funnily enough, today he was joined by somebody, a pal of his in the industry, who had looked him up on the live tracker and just shot out there and got on his mountain bike and joined Dan while he was running. So that was what a fantastic thing to go and do. But I mean, seeing some of the pictures of blisters on his feet, the sort of thing that would make people take a day off work, and he just keeps on running. I sit here at my desk and I just think, I can't believe I'm sitting here all day, every day. It's been going on a fortnight, and every day he just gets up early in the morning and starts running. It's just unbelievable.
The man needs a medal. But as a reminder, he does need a medal, right? As a reminder, please do visit hometoroam.run on the web, or any social channels, or check out Snowcamp charity if you do feel inspired to get involved at all.
Well, I certainly did feel inspired. I really do fancy chucking my mountain bike in a car and going and finding him somewhere in the Alps and see if I can join him. It would just be be a fabulous thing to do, wouldn't it? It would be so good just to arrive there. But definitely makes you want to do something. I made our donation today, which I think was the thing that limped over the £2,000 barrier, which is great. It does make me feel highly inadequate sat at my desk and arranging a Zoom call today. So, Rob, off to the summer we are, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks' time for a summer episode of the Whiteout. And of course, we'll be thinking about getting ready for next winter. What do you think?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I need to get out and about and expend some energy. Not quite as much as Dan, but definitely need to get away from the desk and have a nice summer in the mountains. And I hope you do too, Dom. I hope maybe we can spend some time together in the mountains this summer. That would be nice.
I think let's see what we can do. What about we meet up in Jungfrau? That sounds like the place to be, doesn't it?
What a plan that is. Let's do that.
Yeah. Very good.
We can talk for hours about our experiences there together as well.
Yeah, exactly. Good stuff. Well, good to talk today, Rob, and great hearing from Dan Keeley of Snowcamp there. And listeners, do look up Snowcamp charity and the hometoroam.run. See if you can add some coffers to the charity pot there. It's good to talk today, and I will see you again soon, Rob.
Thanks, Dom. Have a great summer. I'll see you in Jungfrau.
See you in Jungfrau. Take care.
Cheers.
Sounds good.